Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to have Marty Matika joining us here, our life coach, therapist, and speaker at Life Circles. Yeah, the company itself, the coach that he does, and all that he does to help people that are struggling and to really navigate their lives for the better. So, first and foremost, let's welcome the man of the hour. Marty, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for asking, Jill. Pleasure to be on.
Well, we are excited to talk to you about all the work you do, and there's a lot to get to. Let's just start off by telling everyone your website. How can we find out more about you to start?
Sure, it's life dash circles and the dash or hyphen. So life-circles.com is the place to check me out.
Beautiful. You say empower your child to rise above life's challenges and really face, we all face challenges, right, on their journey to adulthood, but you're helping so many, especially those in their teenage years, right? Tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
Sure. So I'm a life coach. That's my main thing. I have a background in therapy, a background as an NLP practitioner and an NET practitioner, and I do speaking as well. But I help a lot of teenagers, which I feel like is probably some of the toughest time in life, navigate those struggles, and even young adults. And then I also have a part of my business where I help people going through a divorce. It was something I went through. My parents, went through when I was younger, and it really had a big impact in my life. So I help parents navigate that kind of challenging time, but I also work with a lot of young people that have separated or
Aw.
divorced parents and help them out.
Great. Well, we have a lot to get to. We're going to talk about all the specific niches and how you're helping people, but I think it's important to get to know you as Marty, the kid growing up in. Did you grow up in PA, by the way?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your background. I know I read about your family, your parents, and tell us, what inspired you to get into this field.
Yeah, it was really, I had a challenging childhood. My parents got divorced when I was about 5 years old. Have a younger brother that was 3 years younger than me. Wasn't easy for me. A lot of times I wanted my parents to stay together, and a lot of kids have that dream, and that's just not a reality. A lot of the times, marriages fall apart. So my teenage years, I was really acting out, getting to a lot of just mischief. I'm lucky to be alive in some ways to this day, but started to see a therapist when I was about 17 and turned my life around. During that time, though, I learned tools to help navigate that time. So that's where I'm really looking to give back and serve young people because I've been through it. I know crying myself to sleep at night. I know how challenging it can be. So that's what my life is about, just being of service and helping as many people as possible.
Beautiful. So I was reading, I think you started therapy in your teenage years, like you were 17 or so.
Yes.
And it's amazing that it changed your life. So that also, you look at the bad in our lives, and I went through a lot myself as a child. I think we all have childhood trauma of some sort. And it's like, wait a second. Now I can use this. There's a reason for why this happened to me because now I'm helping others. And it's so beautiful that something that's maybe negative can turn so positive. And look at all the positive effects you're having on so many people. So, as hard as it was to go through, would you change anything?
No, and it's so perfect the way you say it because when I look back on it, I wouldn't have changed anything because, I'm a great man to this day. I've learned lessons. I'm a great husband. I'm a great father. I have a great life, but I had to go through those childhood traumas to kind of get where I am. And, sometimes the childhood traumas can break people, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it makes you stronger
Yeah.
depending on which avenue you go. And, sometimes the things that we go through in life, we learn and then we're able to teach others and help other people that are dealing with similar things.
Wait, but then I also read you got into computers. Could you tell me a
Yeah,
little bit about
yeah.
this and what happened with
Funny,
that
like after
career?
high school, first I went to Penn State for business management, was just not into it. Then I became a computer professional, liked it, became successful doing it, was working at law firms and consulting firms. But about 28 years old, I realized I liked working with the people more than the computers. So I took an intro to psychology class at St. Joseph's in Philadelphia, fell in love with it, finished my bachelor's degree there, then went to Villanova, got my graduate degree in counseling psychology. And, I've been doing this for the last 10 years and love what I do and just love helping people out.
Well, let's talk now about the current work you're doing. And you're helping so many, young people especially, to overcome struggles and challenges in their lives. So I know that's the first part of what we need to discuss today. So let's break it down. Tell us a little bit about how it works and, the process of, reaching out to you.
Yeah. Well, so reaching out to me again through my website is an ideal thing. My phone number is 610-529-5322. Another way to reach out. But, it's really for parents right now noticing struggles in their young person. And there's so many of them. I mean, social media is a huge issue. Anxiety, depression, mental health issues since the pandemic and the lockdown
Wow.
have been
Hmm.
through the roof. So there's a lot of young people just really having a tough time with life. And so I do my life coaching. I have my background in therapy, so that can kind of help, deal with some of the past traumas. And then my NLP practitioner work as well. I'm able to kind of rewire that subconscious mind because the subconscious mind is the part behind that's running that you don't really think about. But that's our programming from childhood. And I'm able to undo a lot of that kind of faulty programming, for lack of a better word.
Oh, well, I love it. From empathy born, you say from personal experience. Let's talk about some of these services that you do offer, from the life coaching to the therapy, the speaking, and also best-selling author. See, there's a lot on your sheet. So let me have you take the reins. Where did you want to start?
Yeah. So life coaching's my main thing because I could do that anywhere in the world. Therapy has some different things in different states, but again, I have that kind of background and that education. And then the best-selling author, it was interesting. I got together with about 25 other entrepreneurs, and we each wrote a chapter in a book called Success from the Heart, became an Amazon bestseller, and really a way to kind of get my message out. And my chapter was perspective is everything, right? We all have our own perspectives in life. Nobody's right or wrong. We just all look at things differently. And the one thing that I've been doing a lot more lately, I've been leading these co-parenting seminars for a local county, Montgomery County, where King of Prussia is located, called The Children Come First. So anyone that has a custody issue in that county has to come do the seminar with me. And it's just to find a way to work with your ex to make sure your kids are okay. So I love speaking. I usually have 20 to 25 people in each session that I do. And I just make a big difference in their worlds. And they're like, wow, I never thought of it like that before. But again, it's all for the kids and making sure they're okay.
Oh, wow. I love it. So you're working not only with the young people, but also the parents too, clearly.
Yes, yes.
And
But
would you mind sharing some of the examples of, how you're helping them navigate and how it works to work with a life coach?
yes, yeah. So, each young person has their own struggles, right? So say it's an anxiety type of thing, or they're getting really stressed out with tests and, different things like that. So there's ways to deal with anxiety. A lot of times anxiety is like our mind thinking of worst case scenarios. What bad thing can happen, right? So a lot of people don't realize that you're actually in control of your thoughts. Your brain is based on fear and security. It just tries to keep you safe. So a lot of times the things that your mind say are not actually true. It's based on your programming and what you dealt with growing up. So you think of it in a certain way. But one of the biggest things is catching your thoughts when you're having a negative one and changing it to something positive in the moment. That's one of the biggest things that I work with on young people, and just kind of getting them back in control of their brain and their thoughts. And especially during the teenage years, there's a lot going on in that world. So it's definitely not an easy time.
Oh my goodness. You also are doing workshops, let alone the one-on-ones, and you do in person and virtual too, right?
Yes, correct. One of the positives, maybe one of the only positives that came out of the pandemic is the Zoom, right? It's like
Yeah.
me and you are able to meet. We're in two different cities instead of me driving up to New York City or wherever, right?
Yeah.
It's we're able to do this. So I'm able to help people, and especially young people, they have a lot going on in life. So ideally, I'm always pushing for in person, but there's that flexibility. We can do it on Zoom. You got football practice, you got soccer practice, you got AP classes. We could do our session over Zoom. And usually with teenagers, I do about 30-minute sessions because, some like to talk a little bit more, but I get right to the point of things. I'm light, I'm fun, but I also get right to the meat of it and give them the tools to help them work through their life and their struggles.
Oh my goodness. Well, also now let me ask, is there normally like a time frame of how long you need to work with someone to help? Is there like a commitment of how long does it take to make a change? Is it 3 months, 6 months, or is it individually different for everyone that you're working with?
It's individually different, but I have 3 and 6 month packages, 10 sessions. A lot can be done in 10 sessions. And like I said, I get right to kind of what the issues are, give them the tools right away. So some people heal and get better in less than that time, right? But usually 3 to 6 months is a good marker to see where you've been and then how you've grown during that time. Your grades are getting better, better social life, kind of staying off social media a little bit more, right? Just different things that are going on. But social media is also a lifeline for young people. So it's just learning how to manage this new tool, which is almost mandatory in a kid's life, right? It's just learning.
And it also could be a bad thing, right? Like this social media and all these young kids. I mean, I'm just curious about, I have a 7 and 9 year old and how it's going to affect them. This is something we didn't deal with growing up, right? Because we're always on the iPad or the phone. And how is that affecting us developmentally, work wise, school wise? These are things that I'm sure you're dealing with. I mean, what do you notice about that being on the phone a lot?
Yeah. Number one, creates more anxiety, more depression. A lot of people post a life online that's not actually their life,
So
right?
true.
So,
Yep.
right. So it's like you try to live up to, man, everyone has such a great life. I don't really have that great of a life. But meanwhile, they're only showing the good things. They're not sharing their struggles and challenges. So it creates this false sense of belief, even for us as adults, like, wow, they got everything put together. Yeah, look behind the scenes, right? They're only showing that. And then, me and you never had to grow up with like bullying nonstop. If we had some bullying at
Yeah.
school, it would stop when you go home. Social media's relentless, group texting. Like there's things where it never stops, where young people cannot get a break from it. It's just, and it can develop into depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues.
You also mentioned the pandemic and, the heightened anxiety with children, with people. Can you share your experience with what happened with that and, what the impact has been on us?
If really for young people as and us for as well, but really on the young people, they're growing up on these devices. So their social skills are not as good. Like there's stories I have where, two kids will sit on a couch texting each other. Just turn and talk to the other kid, right? So they're texting and, it's breaking down social relationships. A lot more kids, and I'm a very outdoor, nature, athletic person, young boys are playing Madden video games, which are football games, instead of going outside and throwing the football around, right? So it's just, there's so many negative effects that are coming from it. And there's not even a ton of research done because it's a new thing that's been incorporated into our lives. And who knows what's going to happen with AI and that going forward. That's a whole other ball of wax that we're not even clear on, but it's definitely killing some learning in some ways too. Google spell check. Well, I don't really need to learn to spell anymore. Just put it in Google, it'll correct it for me, right? There's just a lot of these types of things that are challenges for our young people right now.
So I know you also, at Life Circles, by the way, you're believing in changing your thinking, right? You got to change your mind to change your future in a sense.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, our slogan, change your thinking, change your life, right?
That's
If
it.
you're able to change your thinking, you're able to kind of navigate your life the way that you want it to go. Because as I said earlier, you were programmed since birth from your parents, from education, from your culture, from your religion to think a certain way. But if you look around the world, everyone's thinking in different ways. No one's right or wrong, but are you getting the results you want? Are you happy in your life? If you're not, you got to change the way you're thinking, and we all have the power to do it. So I teach them the tools to be able to change their thinking and ultimately change the way their life is going and get more of what they desire in their life.
Got it. Well, at this time, we're, a little over halfway through. Remind us how we can reach out to you, please. Tell us the website, phone number, social media pages you have, and do you offer like an initial consultation?
Yep, always for free initial consultation just to see if we're a good match, if it's something I can help you out with. Again, it's life-circles.com, and then my phone number is 610-529-5322. And they're the two best ways to reach out with me to get that free consultation set up.
Beautiful. Love to hear that. All right. So, what else do you have in store for us today? Being it is our first show, getting to know each other, what else do you want to share about you and your services?
Yeah, so another thing that has been one of the bigger things lately is getting into speaking, right? So I've been pulled
Yeah.
into a lot of schools lately. There's a local school where I just talked to the top 25 graduating kids their senior year, and just really gave them some inspirational thoughts, right? Some different ways to look at life as you're going on to that next step, which a lot of times it's college, not always anymore, and you don't need to go to college, but you do want to figure out what your next path is. So, speaking, really getting into different organizations, schools, universities, and just helping out these young people because, as I said earlier, teenage times are probably the toughest in life, but so is the young adulthood. 18, 19, 20, you're not sure what you want to do. Friends are going to college. It's tough sometimes, right? And I advise young people, don't just go to college to go to college. If you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, go for that. But if you're not sure, try a couple of things out. In Europe, they take this thing called a gap year. So after you graduate high school, you take off for a year. Then you kind of go to university if you want to. You take a trade on. You do an internship somewhere. I'm really big on doing
Me
internships.
too. I did three when I was in high school, college, and it was just like, that's the most important thing. I try to explain to people. It's sometimes it's not about that education. It's about the networking. It's about who you know. And, I think being kind, volunteering your time goes a long way.
Yep, because you could be successful doing anything, and you could be a millionaire doing anything. I don't care if it's a janitorial service, an electrician, a plumber,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like you said, it's who you know. It's building relationships in life, and that's where social media is really kind of,
Yeah.
killing these young people because they're having a
Oh,
tougher
yeah.
time building those social relationships, and that's what makes the world go round. Who do you know? Right? A lot of times we get great opportunities in life through people we know or people that know other people, right? So it's yeah, a big thing.
It sure is. My goodness. Now, I know we're speaking a lot about the work you're doing with youth and helping parents, but can I also just digress a sec? Because you did mention another aspect of your work about, helping those going through a divorce. Could you share a little bit about this too?
Yes. So, again, I lead these co-parenting seminars, which is two parents that have broken up, either divorced or separation, because the kids don't really care. Either my mom and dad are together or they're not. So
Hmm.
I help them, kind of what's the best way to break it to the kids? Ultimately it's together and it being on the same page, right? But then also letting them know here's some of the potential struggles your kids could have. But
Yeah.
it's also, try marriage counseling, right? That's always a last ditch effort. But if that doesn't work out, it's better sometimes that you get separated or divorced than stay in an unhealthy marriage because your kids are constantly modeling and looking up to you. So, say you're two parents that fight all the time. Your kids are probably going to develop that type of relationship, or you're completely shut down and never talk to each other. Well, you're training them to potentially have that type of marriage down the road. And in those situations, it's better that you get separated or divorced because your kids will recover, especially if they can get a little help because it is a traumatic experience, but they will recover. Kids are resilient. But if you keep modeling your whole life an unhealthy marriage, unfortunately, your kids may go that way one day. So yeah, I push more towards a divorce or separation in that situation. And honestly, right now, I think the most recent statistic was over 50% of first marriages are ending in divorce. It's not the end of the world.
Wow.
A lot of young people are dealing with it. They will recover.
Yeah.
How can you navigate it best as co-parent?
And as far as coaching, I have to say this for someone I've never been divorced, but never been married either. But my friends, my family, and the expense of going through a divorce and the headache and what it does emotionally, financially. I know a lot of people are now coming to see coaches to try to work things out for the benefit of everyone's pocket, everyone's mental status, especially the children, first and foremost. But it really could work miracles that way in so many ways. So
Yes.
I commend you on that. It's not an easy thing.
Thanks, Jill. Yeah, especially when you get the attorneys involved and all the fighting and then the conflict. And
Yeah,
guess what? It affects your mental health going through that. It can really take you down. Going through a high conflict
yeah.
divorce. I mean, anxiety, depression, it affects you as a professional, it affects you as a parent, and it affects you just with yourself. So there's a lot of negative consequences around it. So finding some help if you're in that situation, and I'm here to serve in any way I can around that as well.
And could I ask just a little bit about who would you credit as your mentor? And tell me, who inspired you? I read a little bit about someone you looked up to and let alone your family, but tell us more about that.
Yeah, so definitely, so my mom and dad were great mentors in their own way once I was able to see it, but they also had their things they were working through. So three of my favorite self-help people, Tony Robbins, number one. I mean, he's like who I want to be when I grow up. I'm 43, but he's still who I want to be when I grow up. Werner Erhard, who's done a lot of like landmark education work, and Wayne Dyer, one of the most peaceful, beautiful spirits that was ever on this earth. I mean, three of my main ones, as well as Napoleon Hill, and the list goes on and on. But, those are three of the main people that I've really looked up to and have made a huge difference in my life personally.
Wonderful. And so, someone out there today that's listening, that is in need of help and struggling, and maybe a little hesitant to reach out because it's also hard to ask for help. It's hard to acknowledge that, we don't have it right and we need the help. What would you say to someone out there that may be struggling in this situation? Well,
You know,
whether it be divorce or a child as well.
Yeah, the hardest way to do anything in life is by yourself. So
Mhm.
reach out, especially to me. I have a free consultation. You have nothing to lose, but I can at least give you some information, even give you some tools in that call. I don't even care about the money. It's more about being of
Yeah.
service and ultimately helping the young people. Like when I was young, I didn't
Yeah.
have that help for myself. And
Yeah.
I know sometimes it's hard when you're going through it, but get a little help for yourself, whether it's me or somebody else. It doesn't even have to be me, right? It could be someone in your local area, but just make that call because once you get the help, things start to become easier and everyone can benefit from that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And being it is your first show, we still have 5 minutes left here. So, what else did you think is important for you to share today for our listeners to get to know you and the services you provide?
Yeah, so I'm a light, fun person, right? I love to have I play with my teenagers. I have a good time with them. We joke around. I'm very vulnerable. I'm an open book. I share my past experiences. I
Yeah.
don't have anything to hide, so I really connect with young people, but I also have an expertise around dealing with the divorce, right? I haven't been divorced. I'm married, but I know what it's like from watching my parents, from leading these
Hmm.
seminars that I lead for Montgomery County and constantly talking to parents. I've been leading them since September 2019. So I've led it to thousands of parents. And there's always two or three that come up to me after, if not more, like, thank you so much. Here's my situation, right? And then just giving them some thoughts on what they can do to improve that situation. So yeah, that's a lot about the work. But my biggest key for everybody, and like you brought up earlier, is reach out to somebody. Get that help. The hardest way is
Yeah.
doing it on your own. And a lot of times you don't know what you don't know,
So
right? There's
true.
people that are experts in certain things that can give you some insight. There's so many experts I've learned from in so many areas of life. I'm a humble person, right? It's just reach out, right? The people know things better. Like a lawyer knows this, an accountant knows this, a therapist knows this. Just
Yeah.
reaching out to somebody to get yourself help. And I know it's really hard and it may be costly in some ways. And, you may just not want to do it. Maybe you just think that you can escape the situation or it's going to get better over time. But it's like a monkey on your back. Until you get that monkey off your back, it's going to be on your back the rest of your life. So just find out what kind of help you need and reach out to that person.
Did you want to share any experience of someone you're working with, obviously without using their names?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
tell
of
us a
course.
little story about how you've helped someone on this journey.
Yep, just had a brand new client yesterday, and he's been separated from his wife for the last year. Not sure which way he wants to go, leaning towards separation. Kids are really having a tough time with everything. And now his son has stopped going to his house. They had 50-50. Now he's only going maybe 4 days a month instead of 15. So he's really heartbroken over this. And, one of the things I shared with him was you got to be true to yourself. What is it that you really want? They went to 8 months of marriage counseling, didn't work
Mm-hmm.
out. It's ultimately at a point where what do you want to show your kids? An unhappy marriage where the two of you never talk because they don't
Yeah.
fight, but they never talk. So remember, your kids are watching and they're both teenagers. I think they're 16 and 14. They're watching you. They're going to start developing these types of relationships. So I'm never pushing for divorce or separation, but sometimes it's the better move than staying in an unhealthy marriage. And that was just a new client from yesterday.
Wow, I love hearing that. And coming back time and time again, I'm sure, word of mouth is a big thing. People, learning about your work. Now, let me ask you this because here's the summer, right? So if you're helping a child out, I mean, like our age children, at what age do you start at? Can we zoom it? Like what age can you work with a child that's consider actually focus if we're doing like a virtual session?
Yeah, so I have a 7 and 8 year old. but usually it's more kind of the teenage years.
Teenagers,
But
yeah. Uh-huh.
for the teenagers, even preteen, 10, 11, 12. Usually I like to start with 10 up because they could stay a little bit more focused in the sessions. But a lot
Yeah.
of the 7 and 8-year-olds, I'll have them come in person, and then we'll do Zoom here and there if they're on vacation or something like that, making sure there's privacy because everything's private in my sessions and confidential. And, it's their safe space to say what's going on for them.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited to have you here. Marty Matika, by the way, if you are just tuning in, you got to rewatch this. Life-circles.com. He's our life coach, therapist, and speaker. And also, by the way, I got to ask you, I love your slogan. Can you share with us to close out today
Yes,
with
it's
that? Thank you.
right here on my shirt. Change your thinking, change your life. We're always in charge of our brain. And if your life's not going the way you want, get back control over your thoughts and change them up because you can always have the life that you want. You just got to get
Beautiful.
control
You
of
got
that.
to work at it. Thank you again. And Marty, how else do you want people to reach out to you for that free consultation?
Yeah, so life-circles.com or 610-529-5322. I'm here to help.
Excited to get to know you today. Thank you so much for sharing all this and looking forward to the next time we connect. Are we back again next
Yeah,
week?
next week at 11 o'clock. I'll see
Uh,
you, see you all
Same
next
time,
Wednesday at
same
11.
place. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Marty. You have a
Thanks so much.
fantastic week, okay?
Thank you, Jill. You
Thank
too.
you. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.